Have you ever had that moment where you're reading something in English and it's like totally clear in your head,
Yeah.
but then you want to say something, use those same words out loud?
You just freeze up.
It's like hitting a wall
It is. It's that fear of speaking, right? And we hear about it all the time.
all the time. So we're going to tackle that today, really dig deep into it.
And we have a great resource for this. We've been going through this video, the English Leap podcast.
Yeah, they do such a good job on that podcast of like really breaking things down.
They do. It's a really good blend of like people's actual experiences. You know, they share stories from listeners and then they give you those practical tips. And they even, go into vocabulary. Like
Right.
if there are words that might be new for people.
Which I always appreciate. Yeah.
Yeah, so it gives you a really well-rounded picture.
And it's not just a, here's the problem and feel bad about it kind of thing. It's more like,
Here are some things you can do.
here's the problem, here's why it exists, and here's how to start moving past it. I love that.
Yeah, and I think what was really cool for me watching it was, we all know that fear exists, right?
It's a fear of speaking.
Yeah, but they really went into the different like levels and the facets of it,
Yeah.
from those really like panic-stricken moments
Uh-huh.
to things you can like actually practically do to start shifting your mindset.
And I think that's what we really want to get across to you today
Absolutely.
in this deep dive. It's like, okay, we get it. You feel afraid. Here's why.
Yeah.
And more importantly, here's some things you can actually do to build your confidence.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. I think one of the first things that really struck me when we were watching that video was that experience
Right.
of, you understand English perfectly.
You can read this transcript right now, no problem.
Exactly.
But to speak it,
To speak it.
it's like, oh, something's disconnected there.
They even had like a listener write in, Lisa,
Yeah.
and her analogy was, oh, the juggling spaghetti.
Exactly.
I love that because it's so true. Like in your head, you've got all these words, you know the grammar, but it's like, how do I make it come out of my mouth in the right order?
It's like trying to untangle a mess.
Right.
You have all the pieces, but
Yeah.
putting them together is the tricky part.
And I think what's interesting, too, is that, even native speakers
Oh,
have moments where they're like,
Absolutely.
oh, that didn't come out right.
In the video,
No.
Evan, one of the co-hosts,
Yes.
he tells this really funny story about being in a coffee shop.
I love this story.
And the barista asks, for here or to go? And he just says, yes.
Yes. Like no other information.
No context at all. Just yes.
And it's so funny because it's like, we all have those moments.
We do. We do.
But what I think is really great about that is that it just shows that, like, mistakes happen.
They do.
The world didn't end. He probably laughed about it later.
And it's okay. And I think that that's really important to remember, especially when you are learning a new language, is that like these little mistakes,
They don't define you.
they really don't.
And it's all part of the process.
So that leads perfectly into like, what is the root of this fear, right?
Yeah, the English Leap podcast talked a lot about the little voice in your head.
Oh, that little voice. We all have it, right? It's like,
It is.
oh, what if I say the wrong thing?
Right.
What if my pronunciation is terrible?
And what if they laugh at me?
Oh, that's the worst one, right?
It is. It is.
And it's so powerful. And I think it can be so debilitating for people because it holds them back from even trying.
All right. And I think if you connect it to, like, just the bigger picture of human interaction, this fear of judgment, of not being accepted, it's like really deep-seated in us.
It is.
But the hosts, I thought they brought up a really interesting point to counter that.
Oh, what's that?
Well, most people are so busy.
Thinking about themselves?
Exactly. They're thinking about their own lives, their own thoughts, what they're going to say next, that they're probably not even paying that much attention
To your mistakes?
to your mistakes. Exactly.
That's true. I know I do that. Like when I'm talking to someone, I'm just trying to understand what they're saying,
Exactly. And also they brought up the fact that, like, often people are just impressed that you're even trying.
That you're making an effort.
Yeah, to speak a different language.
Like if you just say thank you in someone's native language,
Right.
it's like their face lights up.
They're so happy.
It's like, oh, and it's such a small thing.
It is, but it really shows the intention
It shows that you care.
to connect. Yeah.
So if we know this fear is so common,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that actually like feed that fear?
Yeah. The podcast, they really broke it down into a few key areas.
Like what are the sources of this fear? What are we really afraid of?
Exactly.
So one of the biggest ones I think is just vocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
Limitations.
Having the ideas in your head,
You know what you want to say,
but not the words to say it.
but the words aren't there.
It's like trying to tell a story with missing puzzle pieces, you know?
Uh-huh.
You have the picture in your mind, but
You can't quite complete it.
you're missing some key elements.
That can be so frustrating because you're like, I know what I want to say,
Yeah.
but I don't know how to say it in English.
And then closely related to that is, of course, grammar.
Oh, the grammar. Always the grammar.
Like, are you using the right tense?
Yeah, is the word order correct? And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in that.
You do.
And it feels like, oh, if I make one mistake,
The world's going to end.
it's going to be a disaster, you know?
But the point that they made in the podcast
Uh-huh.
was that most of the time, even if your grammar isn't perfect,
People are going to understand you.
they'll still get what you're trying to say.
Yeah, they had that example of like someone in a Spanish-speaking country.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
And they meant to say bookstore, but they accidentally said library.
But the person understood.
And they just pointed them in the right direction.
Exactly.
And I think that's so reassuring because it's like,
It is.
it's okay if it's not perfect.
The context really helps.
The intention is there.
Yeah.
But, you know, they also talked about how sometimes the fear comes from like a very personal place.
Oh, past experiences?
Past experiences.
Those can be tough.
And they can be so powerful, you know? They had that story about a friend who was like laughed at
In class.
in class for saying the wrong word. And it was so bad that they like wouldn't speak English for months.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's heartbreaking. And I think it shows just how important it is to have like
A supportive environment
a supportive environment. Yeah.
where mistakes are okay.
Mistakes are expected.
It's part of learning.
Yeah. And, you know, and I think the important thing to remember is that like one bad experience
Doesn't define you.
doesn't mean you're bad at English.
Right. It's just one moment in time. You can always start fresh.
And then there's this thing that so many of us struggle with, and it's perfectionism.
Oh, yeah. That can be a real roadblock.
It is. It's like, if I can't say it perfectly, I'm not going to say it at all.
Right. And that mentality, it sounds good on the surface.
Like you want to be perfect.
You want to be perfect, but it really holds you back.
Because you're so afraid of making a mistake.
And like they said in the podcast, if you don't try, you're never going to improve.
You're not giving yourself a chance.
So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
And I love how they reframed mistakes. You know, they said, instead of thinking of them as failures,
Think of them as steps forward.
as information. Like, okay,
It's feedback.
this is what I need to work on.
That's what I need to work on, yeah.
And they had that funny example of like someone trying to speak Italian and they meant to say, I read books, but they accidentally said, I eat books.
Oh, that's a good one.
And the person they were talking to laughed, but then they were like, oh no, it's this, you know?
They help.
Yeah. And it's like, that's how we learn, you know?
Yeah, and I think that mindset shift
Huge.
from seeing mistakes as like these terrible things
To seeing them as
opportunities to learn and grow.
It's so important.
And the podcast, they actually gave some really good advice about how to actually do that, how to make that shift.
Yeah. How do we go from being terrified to being like, okay, bring on the mistakes?
Right, because that's where the growth happens.
So Evan, one of the co-hosts, he was saying that his like turning point was when he realized that every conversation
Is practice?
is practice.
It doesn't matter if you're fluent, if you're not fluent.
If you stutter, if you
Just
hesitate,
it's all practice.
it's all practice.
And the more you practice, the more comfortable you get.
Yeah. And Amelia, she talked about celebrating the small wins.
Oh, that's so important.
So important. It's like maybe you successfully ordered a coffee in English.
Or you understood a whole podcast episode.
Or you had a 2-minute conversation and it wasn't perfect.
But you did it.
But you did it. And those little things, they build up.
They do. They give you that momentum.
And it's like, okay, I can do this.
I can do this, yeah.
And they were saying that, you know, like every step, big or small,
Is worth celebrating.
is worth celebrating.
Because it's all part of the journey.
So we've talked about, you know, what feeds this fear, how to change your mindset.
Yeah.
Now, let's get to the really practical stuff,
The how-to.
the how-to. What can you actually do starting today
Right now.
to feel less afraid to speak English?
And they had so many good tips in the podcast.
So many. Okay, so one of the things they talked about was self-practice.
Yeah.
And they mentioned this thing called the mirror technique.
So that's literally standing in front of the mirror and talking to yourself in English.
You know, I know it sounds a little strange, but
Made it worse.
it works. And it's because it creates this safe space. You know,
No judgment.
there's no one there to judge you.
You can make all the mistakes you want.
Experiment with different sounds.
Oh. See how your mouth moves?
You could even practice, like different tones of voice,
Uh-huh.
and there's no pressure.
And once you get comfortable with that,
Yeah.
the next step might be to practice with someone you trust.
A friend, a family member
Someone who's supportive.
who's not going to, like, correct every single
They're
mistake.
just going to listen and encourage you.
And they gave some really sweet examples of learners practicing with their best friends, their parents.
It's a great way to build that initial confidence.
Yeah, because you know that person is on your side.
They're rooting for you.
And then, once you've done that a little bit, they were talking about, like, conversation groups,
Oh, yeah, those can be great.
finding, like, a local group
Or even online.
where you can practice speaking with other people.
And, you can start by just listening.
Right, just absorbing.
And then as you feel more comfortable,
You can start to participate more.
and then for building fluency and vocabulary, they had this really simple tip.
5 minutes a day?
5 minutes a day describing random objects,
Like, what do you see around you right now?
a lamp, a microphone.
Describe it in English.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing.
But it forces you to use the words.
Yeah, and you'll realize, like, oh, I don't know the word for this.
And then you can learn it.
And then you can learn it.
And then they talked about this technique called shadowing.
Could you explain that one?
Sure. So shadowing is basically you listen to someone speaking English.
Mhm.
This could be from a podcast, a YouTube video, whatever.
Okay.
And you repeat what they're saying.
Like right after them.
Yeah, almost like an echo.
Like an echo. Okay.
And this helps you with like pronunciation, rhythm, intonation.
So it's not just about the words themselves.
It's about the music of the language,
Great music, yeah.
and how it flows.
And another thing that they emphasized was preparing for, like, common scenarios,
Like ordering food at a restaurant.
asking for directions.
Yeah, these everyday situations that can be really nerve-wracking.
Because you're like, oh, I don't know what to say.
But if you practice beforehand, you have some phrases ready.
It's like having a script,
Yeah.
and you can feel so much more confident
And then this one's a little scary for some people.
recording yourself.
Recording yourself, yes.
I hate hearing my own voice.
A lot of people do, but it can be so helpful
How so?
because you can actually hear what you sound like.
Objectively.
Objectively, yeah, and you can track your progress over time.
It's like, oh, wow, I don't sound as nervous anymore.
Or my pronunciation has improved.
Yeah, and I think that can be really motivating.
It is. It's like proof that you're getting better.
And, we can't forget the importance of community.
Oh, absolutely.
Finding a community of other learners
Whether it's online or in person.
where you can support each other.
Yeah, because learning a language can feel very lonely sometimes.
It can, and it's so much easier when you have other people who understand.
Who are going through the same thing.
And then, this is advice that gets repeated a lot, but it's because it's so important.
For persistence.
Consistency.
It's not about practicing for hours once a month.
It's about those little things you do every day.
5 minutes here, 10 minutes there.
Conversation.
It all adds up.
It all adds up.
And it's all about celebrating those small wins, right?
Yes. Like, did you use a new word today?
Did you understand something you didn't understand before?
Did you feel a little bit braver?
Those are all wins.
Celebrate them. Now, there was this really cool part of the English Leap podcast where they had like a vocabulary expert.
Oh, yeah, Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte. And she went through some of the words and phrases that they had used. And I thought that was so helpful because
Sometimes you hear a word and you're like, what does that even mean?
Exactly.
So it's good to have that clarification.
So we thought we'd do the same thing for you just to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
So the first phrase that Charlotte explained was leap over.
Which means to overcome a challenge, right?
Yeah, like to jump over an obstacle.
So you could say she leaped over her fear of speaking English,
And then there was relatable.
which means something that's easy to connect with.
Like you understand it because you've experienced it too.
Yeah, like her story about being afraid to speak was so relatable,
And then there's judgment.
which is an opinion or criticism.
Yeah, like he was afraid of being judged for his English.
And then there's analogies
What is this, a comparison, right?
to explain something.
Yeah, like she used the analogy of juggling spaghetti to describe how her brain felt.
And then there's the dreaded perfectionism.
Wanting everything to be perfect.
Her perfectionism made her afraid to speak unless she knew every word perfectly.
Roadblocks.
Obstacles, things that get in your way.
Like fear can be a major roadblock to fluency,
Shift perspectives.
to change the way you think about something.
Like, he shifted his perspective and started seeing mistakes as opportunities.
Mindset.
Your attitude, the way you approach things.
Like having a positive mindset is important for language learning.
And then we've got shadowing, which we talked about earlier.
Repeating what someone else is saying.
Yeah, like She shadowed English speakers to improve her accent,
Rare.
to practice beforehand.
Like, he rehearsed his presentation in English many times.
And finally, consistency.
Doing something regularly.
Yeah, like consistency is key to learning any language.
I think that was really helpful to have all those words explained.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now we're all speaking the same language.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up, we've really explored this fear of speaking English.
We've looked at why it exists, where it comes from,
Different sources of it.
the impact it has.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway from the English League podcast is that
You're not alone.
you're not alone. It's so common.
And there are things you can do about it.
So many things. So we encourage you to think about all the strategies we've talked about today.
Which ones resonate with you?
Which ones feel doable? You don't have to do everything at once.
Start with one or two,
Yeah, like maybe try the mirror technique
or find a conversation partner.
and see how it feels.
And see how it feels, yeah.
Now here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
Think about a time recently when you wanted to say something in English,
Uh-huh.
but you held back.
You were afraid.
You were afraid.
Yeah.
Now, knowing what you know now, how might you approach that situation differently next time?
It's about having the tools and the courage to use them.
And remember, learning a language is not just about speaking perfectly.
It's about connecting with people.
It's about opening up new possibilities.
And having new experiences.
And sometimes that takes a little bit of bravery.
But it's so worth it.
It's so worth it.